where I believe that it was Mr. Rosales is holding sole liability for the collision.
Now, he says that he didn't hit you, that you hit him.
Yeah, he hit me.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Not a problem. You don't need to be a lawyer to be successful and enjoy your time or to present your case in justice court. But it is give information. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of instructions before we kind of go through the matters for things. So that Mr. Johnson, as the plaintiff in the case, and I don't believe, is there a counterclaim in this one? No, I don't believe we have a counterclaim here. It's a little slow. Mr. Rosales, did you file a counterclaim or is this just standard defense?
No, ma'am. Just standard defense.
Okay. Then, Mr. Johnson, you're the plaintiff, which means that you have the burden of proof to show me that it's looking more likely than not. And typically that's considered the 51% rule.
Mm-hmm.
If I believe both of you equally, then Mr. Johnson, you would not win your case. You got to show me that it's more likely than not. And that's typically the 51%. We take everyone as true to start with, and then we say, can you get there? You will get to start the case with your first statement, and you would get to end the case with a closing statement. So the plaintiff always gets to kind of start and end things since it's you brought the lawsuit. Now, Mr. Rosales, you have a chance to make an opening statement and a closing statement as well. But as the defendant, you're able to just sort of be quiet and say nothing at all and wait to see if Mr. Johnson can start to show me it's looking more likely than not. Mr. Johnson can testify in his own case, and Mr. Rosales, you have a chance to ask him questions directly. Mr. Johnson can call you as a witness, and because it's a civil matter, you don't have a right to remain silent unless you think you're going to implicate yourself in a crime. If he asks you questions, you have a chance to what's called redirect yourself and kind of say, Your Honor, he's leaving you with the wrong impression. Let me explain that more fully, right? So we go back and forth with this. Because this is justice court, I'm allowed to what's called develop the case. So I may actually interrupt from time to time or just say, let me ask you a question, because what's important for me as the judge to look for as the legal requirements may not be what I'm hearing. I may be getting more of I may just get information that's informs why y'all did what you did, but doesn't help me reach a legal conclusion. So I may interrupt from time to time and ask a few questions. If either of you have any exhibits or documents that you want me to take a look at, hopefully you've already submitted those to the court in advance, but on time to time, from occasion, we find things that come up, in the hearing. And so my clerk will always provide an email address, and you can email that over and we'll get it in. And usually we're pretty quick, but we're running a little slow today, but we would be able to display that way. Okay. Now, Mr. Johnson, the first thing I'd like to ask you to do is tell me exactly what you're seeking. If you want money, tell me how much money. If you want property, tell me what property. And then tell me why you believe you're entitled to the money or the property. An example, I want $10,000 because I made him a loan. I gave him the money. He hasn't paid me back, right? Something
Yes,
like
ma'am.
that. Okay, so tell me why we're here, Mr. Johnson. And actually, first, let me go ahead, since you're both pro se, and swear you in. Mr. Rosales, Mr. Johnson, if you'll both please raise your right hand. Oh, fantastic. Do you understand that by appearing today and offering testimony, each of you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury? Do you so swear?
Yes, Your Honor.
Fantastic. Parties are sworn in. All right. Mr. Jameson, tell me what this lawsuit's about and what you're seeking.
Johnson, sorry. No worries. The lawsuit is I'm seeking damages in the form of money due to loss of property, an auto collision that occurred on September 12th of 2023 last year. And the amount I would like to update from the original affidavit, the amount of damages I'm seeking would be $8,149.61. That amount I had arrived to based off the Kelley Blue Book estimated value of my vehicle, as well as the charges I incurred from the defendant's insurance company shipping the motorcycle to Dallas, then back. I incurred a $600 towing fee.
Mr. Rosales, do you want to make an opening? Would you like to make any statements now, or would you like to wait till Mr. Johnson is completely done with his case? It won't affect how I view you at all. It's just defendant always has a choice. What would you like to do?
I like to listen.
Okay, you're gonna wait till the end?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can do. All right, Mr. Johnson, give me where, when, and how. So when did this sounds like it starts with an auto collision?
Yes, ma'am.
When
So
was the collision?
The collision occurred roughly 5:40 p.m. on September 12th, 2023. The where was on South Congress Lane, just north of Slaughter Lane. If you're familiar with the area, it's right next to the H-E-B and the Schlotsky's Deli right there. There's the
H-E-B that's getting redone on South Congress?
South Congress and Slaughter. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, the fancy new H-E-B.
Yes, ma'am. Right around there. So the where specifically was I was leaving the Gold's Gym that's on the other side of South Congress, and I was exiting onto South Congress to turn left to go to that HEB to pick up dinner. At the time of the incident, the southbound traffic was at a standstill and had backed up beyond where my road intersected with South Congress. Me being on a motorcycle, there was enough space between cars for me to safely move between them. And as I was doing so, I had looked left and looked right and seen no vehicles were in the center turn lane. Proceeding forward at about 3 to 4 miles an hour. As soon as my front tire entered into the center drive lane, the defendant, Mr. Rosales' vehicle struck my motorcycle, throwing me off of it, sending me through the air. I didn't impact his car. I landed on my butt on the ground after he had driven under me. Didn't lose consciousness at any point. Immediately stood the bike up, made sure all parties were okay, called fire and EMS to the scene. I declined medical coverage because thankfully I was uninjured, and I believe Mr. Rosales did the same for himself. Had Austin police come out, and they didn't do a crash report. They had just documented us exchanging our insurance information. And then I had put a claim in with the defendant's insurance, and they felt that it was a shared liability in their opinion. And I have here some of the Texas driving code that I'll reference, where I believe that it was Mr. Rosales is holding sole liability for the collision. And do you want me to reference the driving code in particular and walk through the specific clauses, Your Honor?
Hold on real quick. Let me ask you a question. So
Sure.
you're on a motorcycle. You're crossing out of the parking lot. You're wanting to get across Congress Lane.
Yes, ma'am. To turn left into the center turn lane to proceed north to go to the HEB.
Okay. And where was the defendant's vehicle? Was he in traffic on your side of the highway, or was he coming the opposite way?
I was attempting to turn north. He was heading south. So my contention is that he given that I did not see him prior to the collision, I can't say for certain where he was. My contention would likely be that he was traveling south, did not want to wait in standstill traffic, and decided to drive down the center turn lane at such speeds that I had no time to see him, and he struck my motorcycle with such impact that it threw me in the air over his vehicle to never even touch it, and then just to skip traffic.
Mr. Johnson,
I'm sorry.
the collision occurred in the turn lane.
The center turn lane, yes.
So you made it through 2 lanes of travel. You got out into the center turn lane. He was coming to the turn lane and he struck you.
About 12 inches of my vehicle were into the center turn lane. The majority of my vehicle was still in the southbound lane of South Congress.
Okay, so you're getting into the turn lane when the collision occurred.
Yes, getting into it.
Did he strike you from the back or the front?
It was the front left-hand side of my front driver tire on my motorcycle.
You didn't see him, even though he hit you in front.
Yeah. My vision at that time was looking to the right as I was going to be turning left to then merge into the northbound traffic. I had made the judgment that more likely, since it was at standstill traffic and the signal for the intersection was a quarter mile to the right, that there was a low likelihood for there to be vehicles moving at any rate of speed in the center turn lane. If there were vehicles, they would be stopped waiting.
But you weren't actually looking to the other side the way he was coming from.
I did look, and there was no vehicles that I could see, given that there was standstill traffic. And
traffic is at a standstill. You've weaved through 2 cars to get toward the turning lane, but you haven't actually made it to the turning lane. And you're looking to the right, and he came from the left and hit you.
Yes, ma'am.
Had you looked to the left to see if he was coming?
Yes, and I did not see him.
No one was there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. What traffic codes were you interested in sharing with me or highlighting?
Sure. So let me see. Transportation Code Title 7, Vehicles and Traffic, Subtitle C, Chapter 4, it's Section 454.060, Subsection B, specifying if a road is divided into 3 lanes and provides for 2-way movement of traffic, an operator on the road may not drive in the center lane except, and it lists 3 conditions. 1, if passing another vehicle and the center turn lane is clear of traffic within a safe distance. 2, in preparation of making a left-hand turn. 3, when the center turn lane is designated by an official traffic control device for movement in the direction in which the operator is moving. After the collision had occurred, Mr. Rosales had said that he was attempting to turn into the HEB grocery store. Based on where the accident occurred specifically, his only opportunity to make a left-hand turn would be into the back of house area where the semi trucks, do their deliveries. So
what kind of vehicle was he in?
He's in a Honda Accord. I'm not sure of the year offhand. I think it was about a 2014.
Now, you told me that you were also going to HEB.
Yes, I was turning left to head north, which would afford me a right-hand turn into the front parking lot. He was heading south, but saying that he was going to do a left-hand turn, and if he was to do that left-hand turn, he would only be able to turn into the back of house where the semi-trucks were, which is why I did not believe that was true.
I mean, I don't know. That sounds plausible.
Okay, maybe
It's not like I mean, people go in the back all the time. Just all right. So,
fair. And then the other part of this driving code, section 545.101, turning at an intersection, is the code for governing how for me to drive, and that specifies to make a turn at an intersection, the operator shall approach the intersection.
was that an intersection?
What my understanding of with the driveway exiting the parking lot is a roadway, and where it intersects with another roadway is considered an intersection under the driving code.
All right, go ahead. You're turning at an intersection. What do you think he was doing wrong at the intersection?
Oh, no, this is the code governing my driving at the intersection, and it's specifying that I'm to approach in the extreme left-hand lane lawfully available, moving in the direction of traffic, which is what I had done. I had exited in the most left-hand lane that I could, and then after entering the intersection, to turn left, leaving the intersection so as to arrive in a lane lawfully available to traffic moving in the direction being entered. I was in the process of doing that. I never got the opportunity to complete that action as I was struck as I was entering into the intersection.
You were getting into the turning lane.
I'm sorry. Yes, the turning lane.
Okay, because when I think intersection, I think where two roads cross.
Yes.
Right. You're in the turning lane, and then you're going to try to get across two more lanes of traffic to get into HEB.
Yes. I'm not. I never actually made it into the center turning lane.
Yeah. No, he struck you because he was in the turning lane, and you were coming in, and he hit you on the front.
Yes.
So you got the front, I think you said like 13 inches of your motorcycle, and he struck you.
Yes.
But you didn't see him coming because you were looking the other way.
Yeah, and it's also my contention that he was driving negligently in that manner, and that he would be required to drive with such speeds that it's negligent to be adjacent to stop traffic like that. Because when he struck me, it literally just threw me into the air. I'm sorry. And I also have, I believe, on the call my witness, Mike Sledge, who was a couple cars back and can provide his testimony from what he witnessed.
Right. Anything else that you want to share with me from your recollection of what happened that day?
Not at this current time.
All right. Mr. Rosales, do you have any questions for Mr. Johnson about his version of the events?
No, maybe after, but I would like to state what I wanted to say.
Mr. Russ, you have a chance to ask him questions. If you believe what he just said has anything that's incorrect, do you want to highlight that, or do you just want to wait and tell me?
Well, yes. And the fact that he said that he doesn't believe that I was going to the HEB. I was going to the HEB curbside, and the truck entrance right there also leads to the HEB curbside.
That's your testimony. I'm asking, do you have any questions for him? Like, isn't it true that such and such?
Well, is it not true that he also did not say he did not see me, and that's basically where a lot of my case comes from. That he did not see me. I was in the right of way. I was in the lane, and then he tries to come out and hit me. So, is it true that you really do not believe that I was trying to get into the HEB?
You know, I think that's okay. We're good. I got it. All right, Mr. Johnson, do you want to call any witnesses? Mr. Sledge, you said was someone who observed this?
Yeah, yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Sledge, you'll need to take yourself off mute, sir.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, sir. I'm not able to see you, but will you please raise your right hand? Did you affirm that you're raising your right hand?
I'll affirm that I'm raising my right hand.
All right. Do you understand you're now being sworn to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, fantastic. Mr. Sledge, where were you in traffic that day?
So that day I was exited to the Ghost Gym parking lot, and I was making a right-hand turn. There was one car in front of me, and there was a motorcycle in front of that car. The traffic in front of that gym, there are two lanes going south, two lanes going north, and then there's a lane in the middle that allows to turn into the HEB parking lot. Mm-hmm. The people that come into that area normally leave an opening for people that are coming out of the gym parking lot if they want to turn left. Again, you can't really turn right because there are two lanes, that traffic's normally backed up. Now, the light under the HEB, there's a lane, there's 2 lanes on each side with a light in the middle to turn into HEB. When you're coming out of the gym parking lot, you can cross that third lane, and there are no stripes, no marking, no anything. So people constantly make left-hand turns there. But in the lane that Joseph and them were in, I would say maybe 100 feet past that light at the HEB, it has yellow vertical lines across that middle lane, which means no traffic in that lane. And what I heard was this loud thump. When I looked up, I could see where Joseph was trying to turn left, and there was another car that was a little bit further down the road. That, by the way, Joseph and I worked at the same gym. I had never talked to this guy until I saw him 2 days later after this particular accident. And then I saw this car that was a little bit further down the road. But again, there are 5 lanes total, 2 going north, 2 going south, a third one in the middle that will allow you to turn into the HEB. If you're coming out of the gym parking lot, there's a middle, it's that third column, no markings there, but a little bit further down, there are clearly yellow lines that say this is not a lane.
Mr. Sledge, did you actually witness the collision, or did you just hear it and look up after the fact?
Well, I was looking at the whole time.
Did you see the defendant collide with the plaintiff?
I did
Yes or
not.
no?
I heard the loud thing.
No. So you did not witness it. You saw the aftermath.
Correct.
Okay. And that day, did you stop and have a conversation with either the plaintiff, the defendant, or anyone involved in the accident or the collision?
No, ma'am, I could not, because it was like at 5 o'clock, and I'm gonna tell you there was traffic everywhere. Because like I said, once I saw Joseph stand up, I realized it was the guy from the gym. But I talked to him 2 days later and told him I was glad that he was okay, because from the look of that, from this look and sound of that, it was just bad.
Okay.
And that was the first time that I've talked to him.
Mr. Johnson, is there any particular reason that Mr. Sledge has relevant evidence? Because I appreciate that that y'all made friends and then he saw you and he recognized you, but like he didn't actually see the collision. So what factual evidence do you think will be helpful from his testimony?
My understanding was that he had some direct witness testimony to provide. So if the court doesn't agree with that, then I suppose he isn't providing any relevant testimony.
Well, no, Mr. Johnson, I don't know. That's why I'm asking, right? I asked him if he saw it. He didn't. So
Yeah.
what he said he didn't see it and he didn't talk to you until for 2 days later. So what information does he have that you wanted him to present to me? Because the better thing to show me for the highway is a screenshot. Like, give me a photo of where this happened. Do you have any pictures?
Yeah. Well, I had emailed emailed a
We'll
PDF
get to
of
those.
all
I'm
this.
just saying, is there any particular thing, a fact piece from Mr. Sledge that you would want me to hear that I've not heard? Because he didn't actually witness the collision, and he didn't speak to anyone the day of.
Yes, Your Honor. No, nothing from Mr. Sledge directly.
Okay, Mr. Sledge, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Mr.
Sure.
Johnson, you said you submitted some photos in advance. Is that correct?
Yes, I emailed them to the court at 11:30 this morning.
Fantastic. Let's see if we can't take a look at these then. So I see an overview of the accident that's 12 pages. Is that the
Yes.
first one?
Yeah, I would say if you want to navigate to page 6 of that PDF.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen now, beginning with page 4 of 12. The first 3 pages seem to be a narrative, which is what we're going through now. So I'm not gonna read through those because I'd rather just hear it directly from you. But this is an overview. And how did you obtain this picture? Is this from Google Maps or something?
Yes, this is my own creation. I'd taken this from Google Maps, and I have a couple little drawings on here to indicate my opinion of the relevant parties' positions during the incident. So the blue triangle represents me on my motorcycle with the lines indicating my field of view. The green diamond would be Mr. Sledge behind me, and the green circle is a separate witness that had provided her testimony to my insurance company. But then when it came time for this lawsuit and I had reached out to her, she did not return my calls. So I was unable to subpoena her.
Okay, so let me see if I understand what's happening here. Here's HEB, right? On the right-hand side, the big complex of the solar panels. This is HEB.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the back of HEB, the loading area.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the main entrance up here with all the cars, what the parking lot is.
Yes, ma'am.
Look at the size of the parking lot compared to the store.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now over here, buildings. Is this, or is one of these buildings this Gold's Gym, or is it back here?
It's the secondary where you have your cursor currently.
Right here. It's the big one at the back.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then you came out this way down the driveway, and you were here,
Mm-hmm.
and you were going to get across the road.
Yes.
And your goal from leaving Gold's Gym was to go to this intersection and turn into HEB?
Yes, ma'am. Well,
So
first,
you had to-
I'm sorry.
No.
My intention was to turn north in the center turn lane, and then if time allowed, to traverse over the 2 lanes of traffic to turn right there. Or there is another intersection or a turn in. You can turn the parking lot further down the road if you're unable to merge in time.
Yeah. So you were going across these 2 lanes of traffic that were heading toward Slaughter.
Yes.
And you were going to then go across the turning lane, which that turning lane right here is to turn into the complex you're exiting from. There's nothing else to turn into, right? This is grass, and this is all yellow striped, so you can't be in that section of it.
Yes.
So this turning lane here is to facilitate people turning into your complex or further down into the back end of the HEB. So you're going to go across these 2 lanes of traffic.
Yep.
And through the turning lane, and then get into these 2 lanes of traffic and proceed down here and then get into the turning lane so that you can go into HEB. That was your ultimate goal. That's what you were trying to do. Get across these 2 lanes of traffic, the turning lane, and then through 2 lanes of this traffic so that when eventually you got up here, you could get into the right-hand lane and turn on into HEB.
Yes, ma'am.
That's where you're going.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, as you got out here and you got into this section, the defendant came into this lane here and struck you.
I can't say if he came into it. He was just in there traveling at a high rate of speed, struck me, and that threw me over his car.
Got it. He struck you in the center, though, because you had 1 tire in and he was there and he struck you.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's his contention that he was getting into this turning lane because he wanted to turn in up here.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Rosales, is that correct? Does this look like an overview of where y'all were at?
Yes, I was in the middle. I was in the middle lane by the time he had hit me. Exactly where your cursor is at right now. By the time he hit me, he was trying to come out, and I was right there. And right as we tried to come up, but basically almost got to where he was right to come out. I was right there, and he hit me from the side.
Yep. So you're saying he hit you, you didn't hit him?
Yeah, he hit me.
Okay. All right. So y'all collided right about here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then what's the second picture down here?
I was trying to illustrate my checking to left as I was approaching the intersection, and then to justify why I was looking to the right as my front tire was entering that center turn lane.
So even though you were in this lane, if you were getting through these 2 cars, you weren't looking at oncoming traffic. You were looking at this traffic because you were trying to get out ahead of that.
Well, I'm sorry. As I was in the leftmost lane, I was looking to the left because I had made the judgment that the higher risk traffic would be. No, I didn't.
But he was coming from the left.
Yes, he was.
Okay.
So
how about this set of pictures? The second page here.
This was just showing where I was looking at the instant of the collision, which is why I didn't ever see him. Like that was just showing me looking left and right.
How about this? Is this a picture of the accident scene, or is this after when is this picture taken?
So this is, I would say probably 60 seconds after the accident had occurred. All I had done was pick my bike off the ground. You could see on the image as you zoomed in, there are some scuff marks from my bike spinning from the force of the impact. So that indicates exactly where the accident had shown.
Now, if I'm looking at this picture, HEB is here, so you were coming from the left side behind these cars. This was Gold's Gym.
Yes, the Toyota Highlander
across these 2 lanes of traffic, and we're in here when he struck you, and he had gotten into the turning lane somewhere up here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you were going to try to get through here and across this because you plan to turn in up here at HEB.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is the defendant's car?
Yes, and I think that this photo shows pretty evidently that where the point of impact is right there. Yeah, he was coming in and had struck my vehicle as he was moving south, and not me going into him.
I'm not a witness. I'm not an accident recreation expert. I don't know. What I see is he's got damage on the front passenger side.
Fair.
Right? I mean, it is what it is. There's damage there. So this is his car. You're back here.
Mm-hmm.
Both cars were driven away?
No, I had to come and tow my bike myself. I had to stored in that Schlotsky's lot until I could bring my truck over to pick it up.
Okay.
And I have evidence of the damages saying that it was totaled.
All right. And then you filed a claim with his insurance, and his insurance said no because they found that you were equally liable.
Well, initially they said it was equally liable, and then after I'd launched the suit, it seems that they're not representing Mr. Estrada. And come after I'd served the suit in January, Mr. Rosales' mother, Miss Ruby Estrada, who was named on the insurance policy, had called me, and she had told me on that phone call at the time of loss that Mr. Rosales was not on the insurance policy, but her vehicle was.
Okay. So you haven't received any money.
I
Okay.
haven't received any money. I told
information for everyone. Whether or not insurance ever pays or they offer to settle is not evidence of anything in court. In fact, it's typically not even allowed to be admitted, but neither of you are lawyers to know that object to that. And so I'm just curious, right?
Okay.
And I like how we came to it. Just FYI, y'all, good information. The fact that an insurance company did or did not pay or offer to settle is not evidence of anything, because insurance companies don't really care sometimes about facts. They care about what makes financial sense based on actuarial tables, cost, and all these other little factors that come into it, right? Just side information. Okay. All right. Any other information or exhibits that you want to show me so far, Mr. Johnson?
Just calling attention to, as Mr. Sledge had indicated, like the from that first vehicle that showed where the scuff marks on the asphalt were, showing where like my bike had spun around. That in its relative position to the stripe lines further north up on Congress would indicate that Mr. Rosales did an illegal driving action to enter into that centered turn lane to get up to the speeds that would be required to, after impacting my bike, have it just spin on the ground like that.
I don't know that, Mr. Johnson, right? Like when I look at this picture on itself, like he could have gotten into the lane right here the minute the yellow stripe ended.
Then I would, if you need additional convincing, I would say what I had made a claim in with my insurance company, and the Miss Roy, the other witness, also gave them a statement. If you would be willing to subpoena my old insurance company to have them release that statement, she was physically right there and did witness the actual incident to provide testimony that he was driving at negligent speeds.
The question is whether you were negligent as well. You got out in traffic and entered into a lane and weren't looking. What you've acknowledged in your opening statement was a very heavily traffic congested area. And in fact, the photo you showed me shows that the two lanes you were crossing were completely backed up. And Mr. Mr. Sledge, your witness, said the same exact thing, right?
Yes.
All the traffic is where you got struck by, and you weren't looking that way as you entered across it.
Right. The traffic is in the southbound lanes, not in the center turn lane where I was struck.
Yeah, but you were going across those two lanes into what is a turning lane where someone could get into the turning lane. And that's exactly what happened, right? He was in the turning lane and struck you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now he says that he didn't hit you, that you hit him.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
I want to hear from you. So, Mr. Rosales, tell me your version of events.
Yes, Your Honor. So exactly what happened is I was trying to get into the middle turning lane to try to go into the HEB curbside entrance, because I had a curbside I was going to pick up. So as I was traveling, no more than 20 miles an hour to 15 to 20 miles an hour. I couldn't have gone that fast in such a short amount of time. As I was going up, he had tried to come out, and as soon as I saw him, like last second, I try to turn to the left to try to avoid him. And as I do that, he ends up still trying to go. I'm not sure if like maybe he accidentally try to rev his or go forward with the thing with his motorcycle. But then as I'm trying to turn left, he ends up still colliding with my car, on the right side passenger side of my car, and ends up hitting me. And when I got out and after, he said he did not see me, which honestly made me believe that he was at fault completely. He knew that he was at fault since I had the right of way and then he had hit me. But it's from my understanding that he didn't see me. He ended up trying to come out and try to go to the left, the northbound, but ended up colliding with my car.
All right, Mr. Rosales, you submitted some exhibits as well, correct?
Yes, I sent 3 pictures of basically kind of an example of how I went.
Do you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is what you submitted to us. It's 8 pages. There's photos of a car, but then there's these 3 photos at the beginning, which are kind of a top-down photo. in a similar situation. In fact, it looks like y'all might have gotten the exact same Google image,
Yeah.
right? You know, I could tell because the cars are in the exact same positions.
Yes.
When
Yep.
Google took this drone footage, all right? Don't we all
Yep.
love Google? What did we do before this? Okay. So, Mr. Rosales, here's your version of things. So, what is this red dot right here indicating?
Oh, I realized I put that a little bit too far up. Red dot should be a little bit more down, but yes. From there,
What is no, Mr. Rosales? Mr. Rosales, what is the red dot?
that would be my car.
You
The red dot would
got
be
it.
me.
And when you drew this diagram, are you indicating that you got into the chicken lane to the turning lane back here?
Yes, a little bit.
And per your diagram, you were driving over the yellow solid striped line.
Yes.
Okay, so that you were already in the lane by the time you got to this,
Yes, ma'am.
the spot where you could have either turned into here. But you're actually trying to get to where?
I'm trying to get to the other entrance of HEB where like
So
the
in the
truck.
bigger photo that Mr. Johnson gave us here, right, which is we can agree is this is the exact same Google Map photo, only you zoomed in and he didn't.
Yes, ma'am.
Your red dot starts right about here. All right, let's take a look here. Yep, you literally drew your red dot next to the 275.
Yes, ma'am.
So you said you got in here and we're driving all this way to turn in here,
Yes, ma'am.
even though curbside is in the front,
Curbside is actually right there.
over here.
And that side, general area on the right side, and that's usually where
But
where
you got into
me-
the lane back here for a turn. So you were going to go past this turn to make this one.
Yes, I try to get into the middle lane.
Why
from
did you get into the turning lane here as opposed to closer up here, right where your turn is?
It's still traffic.
There's
it
no
wasn't
traffic in
really-
the center lane, sir. Were you trying to avoid the backup traffic here and go down the center lane sooner?
Well, I got into the middle lane as right as you saw where I a little bit.
Yeah, no, per your diagram, sir, you got into the turning lane illegally because you got into it in the stripe zone. So let's say I ignore that
Yeah.
and go with you in the best possible version of things. Even if I think you got in here, why are you getting in a turning lane here in front of this intersection when you're not actually going to be turning in for another, I don't know, I won't even try to estimate that, but look at the length of cars just over here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Why not get in here to turn? There's no backup there. Were you trying to avoid the backed up traffic on Congress?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you got in the turning lane early because you wanted to avoid all this backed up traffic and you were going to be turning further down the road at the next right-hand turn. Or the next left-hand turn.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And these are the same thing. What is this? Are you showing that is this supposed to be the cars that the plaintiff was coming between when y'all?
Yeah, there's supposed to be 3 pictures, like one showing kind of how I got in and like just how it progressed, and then kind of one of the pictures show on how when he tried to come out, we collided.
All right, and this is the damage to your front fender.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm. Picture of his car.
Yes.
I'm just curious, is this EMS for y'all?
Yes, that was EMS
Yeah.
that I read for us.
Okay. Is that his vehicle or yours, Mr. Rosales?
That is mine.
Okay. All right. So the crux of the question then for me, I think, is it illegal for the defendant, Mr. Rosales, to have been right here in the turning lane if this was not the intersection he was aiming to use? He was in fact going to be using one further down the highway. Right? And I think that's what Mr. Johnson is getting at, is that he thinks you are more at fault because you were already in the turning lane in his intersection when you were really trying to go into this one down here.
That in conjunction with I believe he was driving negligently, but yes, Your Honor.
I mean, well, okay. What's the speed limit on Congress at this intersection? I'm curious. Do I know what the speed limit for this stretch of Congress is?
45 miles an hour, Your Honor.
Any proof that he was going above 45?
I'm outside of hiring a transportation engineer to do some calculations based
So the
off
answer is no.
physics. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So we're really just stuck down to, should you have been looking as you wandered out into a heavy traffic congestion to get in the turning lane, to get all the way across? Because there's no light here, right?
Yes, ma'am.
At all. And should the defendant, is it okay, is it permissible for him to be in the turning lane this early when he is not turning until up here?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Rosales, seem
Yes.
anything you want to add to that? Because I mean that seems to be the heart of the situation. Right.
Only thing I could say is that I was in the lane before I had got hit, and then him, without looking into my right of way, he ended up hitting me.
I mean, I can't tell from the photos who hit who, right? I can, it's clear to me that y'all collided, but who hit who is completely, I don't know. Right? Like I don't see Mr.
The point of impact, Your Honor, is
Johnson,
yes.
where is the damage on your vehicle here?
So on my front tire, there is the fender on the top side. You can see the chrome where it distorts right there. That was the actual point of impact right there. I have it in my, it's still sitting in my garage. I can produce more info of proof of that.
I mean, I can see there's a little warp here. I don't, that, the fact that you both have damage to your vehicle doesn't indicate to me, you know, think of it this way. If you both had a bruise, I don't know who started the fight. Right. And no one other than the two of you, neither of you seem to have, like, Mr. Johnson, you weren't looking. Mr. Rosales, you're saying he hit you, and Mr. Sledge didn't see it at all. So we don't know. I take you both to be true. The question for me is really it goes back to that situation then of, is it permissible for the defendant to have been in the turning lane that soon? And if it is permissible, who has the greater duty to be paying attention? I think I understand more and more why the insurance company said you're both responsible for this, right?
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
Plaintiff wasn't looking, defendant got in early. What is that? And Mr. Johnson, you highlighted sections of the transportation code about driving in the center lane. You said 45406.
Yes, Your Honor.
Just give me a moment. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I'm gonna step away and grab a document. I'll be right back. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Johnson, I'm looking at my traffic code here, and I see section 545.0605 is about operation of motorcycles. That doesn't really apply in this situation, but 545.060, driving on a roadway lane for traffic, does. And it indicates that in a roadway divided into 3 lanes or more and provides for two-way movement of traffic, an operator may not drive in the center lane, and that's where the defendant was at, in the center lane, except 1, if passing another vehicle and the center lane is clear of traffic. 2, in preparing to make a left turn, and that's what he's alleging he was doing. Or 3, where the center lane is designated by an official traffic control device for movement in the direction. So that one doesn't apply. So he's alleging that section B2 is his reason for being there, that he was getting ready to make a left-hand turn. What other statutes were you interested in showing me, sir?
Continuing a little further beyond that was the 545101, subsection B. And that was the code governing my actions for making a left-hand turn.
Turning at an intersection. To make a left turn at an intersection. So you're coming out. Is this an intersection? Yeah, I mean, you're coming out of yours. So, all right, let's see. An operator shall, 1, approach the intersection in the extreme left-hand lane lawfully available to a vehicle moving in the direction of the vehicle. Well, you're coming straight out of Gold's Gym.
Yeah.
And after you enter the intersection, turn left and leave the intersection so as to arrive in a lane lawfully available to traffic moving in the direction of the vehicle.
Get out of the center turn lane is how I interpret that.
You didn't make it into the turn lane, or just barely got into it.
Exactly.
On a street designated for two-way traffic, the operator turning left shall, to the extent practicable, turn in the portion of the intersection to the left of the center. To turn left, an operator who's approaching an intersection having a roadway designated for one-way traffic and for which road signs are posted, that's not what we've got here.
Yeah. The beyond that, I don't believe was
safely turning. An operator may not turn the vehicle into a private road or driveway, otherwise turn from it unless movement can be made safely. Vehicle approaching or entering an intersection and vehicle turning left under 545 right-of-ways. To turn left at an intersection into an alley, private road, or driveway. An operator approaching an intersection from a street or roadway that terminates at the intersection and that is not controlled by an official traffic controlled device 1 shall stop, yield, and grant immediate use of the intersection to another vehicle that has entered the intersection from the other street or roadway, or is approaching the intersection on the other street or roadway in a proximity that is a hazard. And 2, after stopping, may proceed when the intersection can be safely entered without interference or collision with the traffic using the other street or roadway. An operator who is required to stop and yield the right of way and who is involved in a collision is presumed not to have yielded the right of way. Here's an important caveat for you, Mr. Johnson. I think this might be the more important one for you.
ma'am.
545.155. A vehicle entering a highway from a private road or driveway. This is you. An operator about to enter or cross a highway from an alley, building, or private road shall yield the right of way to a vehicle approaching on the highway to be entered.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right? Okay. All right. Anything further?
I guess I'm just asking for clarification. I'm of the belief that Mr. Rosales did not have right of way given his declaration of where he had entered, where the striped lines were existing.
Even if it's true that he entered too soon, where he hit you at, he was allowed to be there.
Yeah, yes, he was allowed to be there if we're disregarding the speeding claim. Yes.
I don't have any proof that he was speeding, sir, and I don't have any proof that speeding is what caused the accident.
I would point to the where the actual damages occurred in the images as proof of that. Given that the traffic was stopped, I was forced to enter into that center turn lane at essentially a perpendicular angle to the south traffic. So he would have had to have hit me.
He would have been going faster than you. That is true. But that doesn't mean that he was speeding in a way that makes him automatically at fault here, when it looks like you had to be yielding the right of way and paying attention because you're getting out into traffic from the private driveway.
I understand what you're saying. The clarification I was attempting to make was in addressing his claim that I had struck him, showing that the damages indicate that he had collisioned into me. But if that doesn't, if it's not relevant,
for me, who hit each other is not what's overwhelming me here. And so I'd say that I think both of you are probably, I find it 50-50 here, and the requirement is more 51. And I do think that you have a greater duty to yield here coming into it based on that provision I just read. And per all the video and the evidence I've seen here, the collision took place right as you came out of Gold's Gym, which would have been in the turning lane. Right now, I would definitely say, Mr. Rosales, don't get in the turning lane before you need to be there. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And just barely are you not being responsible for this. But I can see comparative liability on both sides. So for that reason, Mr. Johnson, it's going to be plaintiff take nothing. Okay.
Your Honor, I have one final clarifying question then.
Absolutely.
Am I able to appeal and produce a subpoena for the other accident that would have had visual confirmation that he was driving negligently?
Yes, you absolutely have the right to appeal. Both sides have the right to appeal. And Mr. Johnson, I'm pretty certain that you have 21 days. And the appeal is a little bit different for the plaintiff. It's much cheaper, actually, for the plaintiff to appeal a decision. And then if you wish to appeal and you move on to county court, you can seek a subpoena through the county court in advance of the hearing date, and you can also go through full discovery at that point. All right?
I guess just clarification, if the witness had indicated that she was willing to give testimony at the time of accident, and then in subsequent attempts to reach out to her, she hadn't been responding, am I still able to send the subpoena?
That's the reason for the subpoena.
Okay, fair.
She's not wanting to come on of her own voluntary collision. You have the court issue a subpoena. You request it from the court. The court doesn't do it of its own volition because we got nothing to do with the case, right? We are free and clear of everything. But if you have someone who has pertinent information that you believe would be relevant to helping determine the truth of the fact, then you have the right to seek a subpoena for that person. And if they ignore it, the court can take some action. But if they're refusing to call you back or they just don't want to be involved, that's the reason the subpoena gets issued, is because this person would otherwise like to just ignore it. And no, they have information they've got to come forward with.
Fair enough. Then, I would just close my closing statement. I'm still happy to drop this suit as soon as my property is replaced, but I'll likely be going the route of the appeal.
Okay. All right. Good luck to you both. Thank you. I'm really glad that neither of you were physically injured. But especially Mr. Johnson, be careful. Motorcycles, that intersection. When I look at those photos, I think they need a light at that intersection.
Yeah, no, they do. And my
That's pretty much everything on that section of Congress. That HEB has completely changed that intersection in a major way. South Park Meadows has changed everything over there. So,
yep,
luck to both of you. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank y'all very, very
Thank you,
much.
Your
All
Honor.
parties are excused.
Thank you.